all of the people that supported us to get us to this point. And we've got Mr. Rick Crisman from ABC that's going to talk to us tonight about the process that's going to happen from us going from a dry county to a wet county. But before we do and before he starts, I want to take time to tell everybody that Julia Nipper with SAU Small Business has left some pamphlets up on the front table. So if you're interested in needing a business plan or anything, pick up one of those. It's got her card. She'd be happy to help you line that up so that you get everything in order. And it's free. It's free. That's a good thing. Also, I would like to introduce to you our guys from Anheuser-Busch that will be covering Columbia County. It's MK Distributors from Pine Bluff, and they're here tonight, and they'll be happy to talk with anybody, answer any questions that you may have for them. So make them feel welcome too, because we're going to welcome them to South Arkansas. But without that, it's going to be a very informal night. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Rick. He's going to explain some process. He's going to answer questions from the floor. So again, thank y'all for being here. It's going to be very informative, and let's make Mr. Rick welcome.
All right, I guess MK's got free samples tonight, is that right? No? All right, my name is Rick Crisman. I'm the Deputy Director of the ABC. I contacted David a couple weeks ago because of you guys voting yourselves wet. I know there's a lot of questions, and you know, now that you're wet, what's going to happen? When is it going to happen? Who's going to get the liquor stores? Can they sell next to a school? I love those TV ads they had out there. It was awesome. Again, I'm just going to kind of tell you guys what's happening now, and a kind of a time frame, what you can expect, when you can expect it, because I'm sure that's on everybody's mind. When's the liquor store going to open? When is it going to open? Where's it going to be? I know those are questions. And the reason I contacted David is because a couple of years ago, we had Benton County, which is up in northwest Arkansas, go wet. Benton County, we learned a lot when they went wet. They were the second largest county in the state with the population. And it was a nightmare trying to deal with the amount of permit applications that came in. Agent Powell is over here. I almost called her Agent Smith. That's her maiden name. Agent Powell's over here. And typically our agents out in the field, they work these applications when they come out. And I would say on average, probably they work maybe 12 to 20 applications a month. Would that be a safe bet, give or take? When Benton County went wet, we got hit with 200 in a week and a half. So we had to learn a lot real quick. We never experienced anything like that, and we never will again, because we don't have any counties that large. And one of the things that I learned when that happened, or when they voted themselves wet, between the time after the election and before the first permit was even issued, I got asked. I actually live in Fayetteville, by the way, and I'm going back there tonight, so I'm going on a long drive. Oh, it's not that bad. I got to get back for the Ole Miss game. When they went wet up there, I was contacted by a POA of one of the towns in Bentonville, or Benton County, and the POA is essentially the whole town. And they asked me to come speak, similar to this. And I said, well, how many people do you think are going to be there? And they said, oh, about 25 or so, you know. And how long do you need me to speak? About 25 minutes. So that's no problem. I pulled up. There's news crew vans everywhere. And I can't find a parking spot at this big country club. And I'm like, oh, God. They're either going to love me or lynch me. I don't know what's going to happen. So I walk in. There's about 400 people. And then 4.5 hours later, I got to leave. But what I learned from that was a great thing to do, because I did not realize how many people are out here that have no idea about alcohol other than how to drink and what the process is and who's going to get what. And, you know, you guys have heard a lot of rumors and a lot of myths that you have believed all your life. One in particular, and no offense to the Baptist community, I'm married to a Baptist, I'll just throw that out there right now. But one of the rumors, especially where I grew up in a dry county as well, is I was always told that the reason there's not any liquor stores is because the Baptist churches bought all the liquor permits. And I'm willing to bet you guys have heard that too. That is not true at all. And so that's what this is about. I want to clear the air. I want to give everybody an opportunity, if they have questions of what they can do, what they can't do, how do we do this, by all means, I'm here. Use me, abuse me, do it. But now that you guys voted yourselves wet, here's what's happened. I'm not going to address liquor stores till towards the end. So if you got a liquor store question, we're going to get to it eventually. But I want to address, because that's going to be a little ways down the road before we start dealing with those. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. But immediately started, I think the 17th of November, we started sending out applications of anybody who requested them for retail beer permits, on or off premise, and wine permits. So essentially, convenience stores, grocery stores, restaurants, if they want to try to sell alcohol, they have to get a permit from us. Well, in our world, in ABC, first off, I need to explain one thing. Everything is not a liquor permit. In our world, we have beer, we have wine, and we have spirits. Those are the permits we have. There's three different things. So when you say a liquor permit at a convenience store, never going to happen. So, because that's spirits, that's hard stuff. And I'll explain that here in a little bit as well, why that is. But so, beer and wine, we started accepting those. We've already got one. We sent out and already got back. And that store could open as early as next month, after the third Wednesday of December. The third Wednesday of every month is when our ABC board meets. And she was able to get her application back in time. And essentially, how this works, if you are a business in this community and you are thinking about selling alcohol, first off, you got to know what you can sell. If you are a convenience store, grocery store, you can sell beer and possibly wine. Definitely beer for sure. Retail beer off premises if you are a convenience store, grocery store. That is alcohol to be purchased and consumed somewhere else. That's an off-premise permit. A retail beer on-premises permit is where they come in, they purchase the alcohol, and it has to be consumed on the premises. So, and also with the ABC, we have 43 different types of permits. And depending on where you are and what you are, is going to determine what type of permit you're even eligible for. And because Arkansas is such a unique state, obviously we still have dry counties. You were one of them at one time. People play by different rules depending on where you are. Just based on that, that's one of the things that makes it very, very difficult to try to understand our world, is because people play by different rules, because different permits have different rules attached to them. So anyway, retail beer, we're accepting those. If you are a convenience store and you're thinking about selling beer, by all means you call our office in Little Rock. You can request a permit application for retail beer off premises. They'll send it to you in the mail. Or you can go up there and get it yourself, whatever you want to do. You're going to bring that back, you're going to fill it out. The process on that, we have to have one person who is a permit holder, and this is for all our permits. One person is the designated permit holder. Their name goes on that permit, along with that business. That person cannot have any felony convictions. And also, that person, when they fill out that form, after we get it back, then we will send another thing back to them, a packet that will include fingerprint cards. They're going to have to go and get fingerprinted and have those sent in to check their criminal history to make sure they're not a convicted felon. Because believe it or not, people tend to lie to us every once in a while. And so we got to make sure they're telling the truth. And so we'll send that back, and also they will get a posting And what a posting is a big yellow sheet of paper. And it says, this business has applied for, and in the middle it'll say what they applied for. Retail beer, small farm wine, whatever the case may be. It'll be on that permit. They have to post that on their business. And if they don't have a business, if it's a piece of dirt and they're planning on building a business, they need to put a post in the ground and put it on that post. It has to be posted. And that thing has to be posted for a solid 30 days before it can even go in front of the ABC board. So that thing's got to be up so the public can tell, or that they go by there, they can see that this person has applied. So if there's any opposition to that business getting a permit, you're going to know they're applying for it. So that person, whoever that, or people that want to oppose this can contact our office and we can tell you when they plan on going in front of the board. And then you definitely, if you're in opposition to it, you can definitely go to the ABC board hearing and express your opposition. You sure can. Also, when that packet's out there, when she gets that, or when that person gets it back and they post it, Agent Smith will definitely get an application for that. She's going to have to go out there, look at the business, make sure it complies and meets all our regulations that we have for that business. She's going to look at it, she's going to inspect it, she's going to look at all that stuff, and then she's going to write it up and send it back. But when she does get that application, she's going to hand out some notices. And I'm assuming that you probably hand out 4 or 5 when you get it. What that is the businesses or the residents that are in close proximity, or basically neighbors. She'll hand those out to those people to let them know, hey, they've applied for retail beer at this convenience store or this grocery store or whatever the case may be. And then she's going to let them know. She's not going to let everybody know in the neighborhood. Obviously, we would be walking forever handing out notices. So she'll just hand out 4 or 5. But that permittee also has to, when it comes to retail beer, and liquor stores are different, but every other permit we have, they're going to have to run an ad in the paper that stated that they're applying for it. They have to run it in the paper, the local paper, and I'm assuming there is a local paper in Magnolia, yes. Okay, so they'll probably run it in the what is it, Magnolia Times, I'm assuming, I don't know.
I know your reporter.
Well, they're going to have to take that there. They're going to have to run an ad in the paper. They got to run it in there 1 day a week for 2 consecutive weeks to let the public know, hey, we've applied for beer, or we've applied for some type of ABC permit, just so we can get the word out. If there is anybody opposing this, that they can come out to the board hearing and definitely speak their mind, or bring whatever arguments they have in opposition to it. So we do that. And also a letter will be sent to the local law enforcement agencies, whoever has jurisdiction over that area, whether it's the county or a municipality, whatever the case may be. They're going to get a letter. The mayor, the county judge, whoever. They're going to get letters to let them know, hey, these people have applied. Do you have any problems with this? And then, of course, the public officials can send a letter back stating, you know, we don't care, that's fine, or hey, we oppose this for X, Y, and Z. And definitely don't feel, if you're here tonight, and I'm sure we have some people here that are in opposition to this, your voice is not, it will be heard. Don't feel that it's not going to be heard. It is. I promise it is. But to say I don't want alcohol at this convenience store just because I don't like alcohol, that's not going to cut it. I can tell you that right now. So there's got to be legitimate reasons behind it, and then the board or the director himself can deny a permit based on the evidence brought to them. So that's where we're at with the retail beer and the small farm wine stuff. Now, what classifies, you know, I mean, I could spend all night talking because I love to hear myself talk. I'll tell you that right now. But, you know, like I said, there's so many different permits. I know the retail beer down here is going to be a major thing. Convenience stores, grocery stores, and some of these restaurants are going to get on premises. Small farm wine, you know, a wine permit at these restaurants for an on-premise wine, same process, same thing. Now, when it comes to wine, small farm wine at a convenience store, there's some issues that, and some things that they have to meet, the business owners have to meet in able to qualify for a small farm wine. And so we have to look, does this business sell gasoline? Do they have motor fuel? If they have motor fuel, then that business has to have at least $7,500 of consumable products in that store, excluding alcohol, of course. If they have that $7,500 and they have motor fuel, then they qualify for a small farm wine. What's a small farm wine? Well, small farm wine, and I'm trying to remember all the numbers in my head, and don't quote me on this, please. Over here, don't. But it's a winery that I believe that produces less than 50,000 gallons of wine a year, but that's considered a small farm wine. So if they have the motor fuel and they have $7,500 worth of consumable products, then they qualify for that. Now, grocery stores that say they don't have motor fuel, well, then now they have to maintain $50,000 of consumable products to be able to sell small farm wine. So gasoline plays a factor into that. But for beer, it doesn't. There is no dollar amount anymore. There used to be, but they've done away with that. Any convenience store type place, regardless of how much consumable products they have, they can at least apply for a retail beer permit. Now, liquor by the drink. I know this is an issue too. And usually when I bring up liquor by the drink, a lot of people don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And so I'll break it down. What liquor by the drink is essentially, if you go to a restaurant or a bar or a club or something like that, you can buy a bottle of beer. You absolutely can drink it straight out of the bottle. They give you the bottle. Well, liquor, spirits, you can't buy a bottle at an on-premise facility. To say, hey, just bring that bottle of Crown, sit at the table, we'll pour our own. You can't do that. In this state, you have to sell it by the drink. Okay, so now we know what liquor by the drink is. So any hard stuff, spirits, have to be sold by the drink. Well, there's several cities in this state that their citizens have voted liquor by the drink, and essentially that's what will have to happen. There's like 3 different ways it can happen, and we can dive into that if you want to, but I'm sure it's probably going to happen at some point. But liquor by the drink, if it's voted, one way is if the citizens, they start a petition, get signatures, and the percentage, I'm trying to remember right off the top of my head, I believe that it's 15%. It's either 15 or 38%. I can't remember right off the top of my head. If they get the 15 or 38% of the registered voters to sign that petition, then it can be brought up for a vote, just like it was this time. But towns can do this, individual towns. And they can vote liquor by the drink. And if they do that, then restaurants get to do something different. They now qualify for restaurant mixed drink permits. In order to understand what that is, I know I'm going to confuse a lot of people, and I apologize. Right now, without liquor by the drink, let me explain if a restaurant wants to sell beer, wine, spirits, what they need to do and how they need to do it. First, they need to get a retail beer permit if they want. Right now, is there any private clubs down here that are restaurants? There's a couple, 3. These are 3 private clubs. Country Club, VFW, Legion. Those are always 3 right there in every county, regardless. Okay. If a restaurant, they can get a beer, they can get a wine permit. They're good to go, and they can buy their products from a distributor, wholesaler, have it delivered to them. That's great. Because you don't have liquor by the drink, if they want to sell any spirits, bourbon and Coke, Crown and Coke, Jaeger bomb, Red Bull vodka, whatever, then they have to obtain a private club permit so they can dispense liquor by the drink with a private club. So that's what would have to happen now. If any restaurant in this town wants to sell margaritas, or bourbon and cokes, things like that, they're going to have to get a private club license to do so. And with that private club license, they can't buy from a distributor. They can't buy from a wholesaler. They can't have that delivered to them. They have to go to a liquor store that has a federal wholesale permit, and not every liquor store has that. But I'm willing to bet every county line liquor store does. I'm just guessing. They have to have that federal wholesale permit, and then those folks that own that business have to go there, purchase it, same price you or I do, and transport it back. So they don't get it delivered to them, and they can't buy it from the distributor. That's the way it's going to be set up right now. You cannot have a liquor by the drink election for at least 6 months after this election. So we've got a few months to wait before that's probably even brought up. So on-premise, off-premise, beer and wine, that's kind of the way this thing works. So if any of you guys are in that business and thinking about doing that, these are things you got to do. Now with that, do we have any questions on that topic? Please feel free to ask questions. Yes, sir.
I want to ask you about small farm wine.
Okay.
This is the same reasons you want to open a small farm winery.
Okay. You want to be a winery?
You want to be a winery.
That's a whole different permit. There's a small farm. There's just a winery permit,
Tell me more.
and it's essentially the same process. Same application. You want to do a small farm, or you want to be a winery. You're gonna have to apply for it. Now, wineries and native brewers play by a whole different set of rules, and I don't have that much time to explain it because they have their own set of rules, and they get to do a lot of things that other people can't. And it is very, very confusing. Native brewers, and I don't know if you guys are going to have any of those around here, but I can tell you that's really hot right now in this state. There are so many native breweries popping up. And they've been on the books for years and years and years. We just never had to deal with them. And then all of a sudden, we're getting bombarded by them. And so every day is a new day for us, because we're learning new stuff all the time when it comes to native brewers. But we've had wineries here. You know, we've got Whitaker over there around Altus in that area, and they've been doing it. Again, you're going to have to ask for a winery application, fill it out, do all that stuff, and send it all in. And you're going to have to run an ad in the paper just like everybody else. And then, again, Agent Powell's going to come out there and look at the facilities, make sure that it's going to be suitable location and all that good stuff. And then, you know, what you can do with your winery, if you're going to be a small farm winery, again, don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure, and I'd have to look at my book, and I apologize that I don't know this answer off the top of my head. But I don't think you can produce more than 50,000 gallons a year. So you're limited to how much you can produce, and that's what classifies you as a small farm wine. And also, it can't, with this retail beer permit, small farm wine can't exceed 21% by volume alcohol either. Once it goes over 21, then in our world, we classify it as a spirit. And with beer, it can't exceed, with a retail beer permit, it cannot exceed 6.3% by volume or 5% by weight. Once you exceed that, it falls into the liquor category in our world. Technically, it's not a liquor. I know that, you know that. But that's the guidelines that have been set. So if somebody wanted to carry, say they got a retail beer permit at a pizza joint here in town, and they want to sell an IPA that's 7% alcohol, unfortunately, those distributors can't distribute that. They have to go to a liquor store to purchase that because it falls under their private club license. They can't purchase it from them. It can be very, very confusing. I know I kind of darted around your question a whole bunch, or I tried. But yeah, the small farm winery, I mean, it's typically not that much different, but the rules you play by once you're up and running are different. You can go anywhere in this state and do samplings, dry or wet, with a winery. you take your permit with you. Nobody else can do that. Native brewers can do it, but they can only do it in wet areas. Again, don't want to open that can of worms unless you're wanting to build a winery. And I'll be more than glad to talk to you. But it's just a whole different set of rules for them. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Going back to liquor by the drink,
Mhm.
I missed this. Is there any way to get a restaurant or let's just say restaurants, to be able to sell liquor by the drink without going through the petition?
A private club. You'd have to get a private club.
Private club is the only other way to do it.
That's the only other way.
Okay.
You either got to have liquor by the drink or a private club. And I had this topic today. I met with David earlier, and you know, I live in Fayetteville. Lived in Fayetteville for 24 years. I was a police officer there for 14 years before I worked for the ABC. And all our bars up there all have private clubs, retail beer, because this is where the food. Because we have liquor by the drink in our town. We do. So if you are a restaurant, by our definition of a restaurant, and our definition is you are primarily engaged in food service, and you serve and prepare the food on site from a health-approved kitchen, then you're a restaurant. Then you qualify for restaurant mixed drink. Well, bars and clubs don't typically have a kitchen, so they don't qualify for a restaurant mixed drink permit in a liquor by the drink town. So those places, if they want to sell hard liquor, they got to have a private club, regardless if they got liquor by the drink or not. It's because they're not a restaurant. Yes, sir.
On the liquor by the drink, can the city council not call a special election?
Where did that come from?
'Cause I was like, man, you talk without moving your mouth. That's pretty impressive.
He's a lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
I'm short, it's hard to say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So on the liquor by the drink, can the city council call a special election and vote for that, or do you have to have a petition?
Well, I didn't get that I didn't get that question answered to me today. I believe that is the way it is now, that a city council can get it on the ballot. They can't make that decision. Let me take that back. They can in certain circumstances. I don't think you guys are going to be one of those circumstances. And the reason I say that is because they passed a law last year in the 89th General Assembly that said any county that goes wet after November 1st of 2012, and if that county has at least 100 alcohol permits in that county, doesn't matter what kind of permits they are, just alcohol permits. If they have at least 100 in that county, then the city councils of any town in that county can just vote liquor by the drink by themselves. They don't have to bring it up to a vote. When they passed that, Benton County went wet November 5th, 2012. And I refer to that as the Rogers Bill, because I think that was passed solely for Benton County, because before they even went wet, they had 129 private clubs. They were truly the wettest dry county in this state. I know every dry county claims they are, but they truly were. And so they already had that met. So when that law was written, honestly, I think it was written specifically for them. And so their city councils in Rogers and in Bentonville just went ahead and made a city council vote and voted themselves liquor by the drink. And so now all those places qualify. Now, if Columbia County gets 100 permits, I don't know if that's possible. This is my first trip to Magnolia. I've never been here before. I love this town. It reminds me a lot of home. I grew up in a little bitty town in north central Arkansas. Just miss the hills. I love hills. You don't have them.
I'm Sam Whitelaw. I'm on the Magnolia City Council as well as the last gentleman that spoke to.
Sure.
My concern is the signage issues regarding the sale.
I'm not going to comment on signage because we don't regulate that. We don't have anything to do with signage. That is going to be something that you guys are going to have to deal with. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, and there's no good way to say it, but we're not going to enforce it. We're not going to regulate it. Now, when it comes to banners and that distributors produce Now, they have certain things that they can only do by our regulations. And they know what those regulations are, I'm sure. But as for neons in the windows and I don't know what other signage you're referring to other than banners and neons.
Temporary sign.
You know, that's gonna be solely up to you guys, and that's your dog in the fight. We don't have that. And if there is an ordinance, of some sort of sign ordinance, then your local law enforcement agencies are gonna have to enforce that. We will not. All right, anything else with beer and wine, and restaurants and all the good stuff? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I never got to your question, but I'll get to you next.
Okay, hotel.
Hotels.
We don't have a club or a restaurant, but we have what is considered a sweet shop, which is the equivalent of a small convenience store
Yeah.
with food, drinks,
Mhm.
that type of thing. What,
You
how
get a
would we
retail
pay
beer
with-
permit.
Okay,
You absolutely can. You get a retail beer permit, an off-premise or an on-premise. Well, you don't have a restaurant, you don't have any place for them to consume it really, but you can definitely, you can get an off-premise, that little sweet shop or whatever.
because
Can-
their room would be considered off-premise from
Yes,
that area?
well, whatever you deem off-premise, you know, when we come out there and you fill out that application, you're gonna tell us what is permitted, what's not, or what you're wanting to permit. Obviously, that's not the case. Now, if you did get liquor by the drink, we do have an HMR permit, hotel, motel, restaurant permit. But you have to have a restaurant in the hotel. And that would allow you to have room service with alcohol, and that's the real big benefit to it. But as for now, you got a little shop in there, that shop would have to apply for it. Hold on, let me get his question.
Well, I was really covering what Mr. Waller asked about, which is the three ways.
The liquor by the drink?
And you covered two of them, the private club permit and then the city council. And at this time, if we don't have 100 permits, my
Mhm.
understanding, the city council can simply pass a resolution to put it on the ballot.
My understanding, yes, that is correct. That the city council could get it on the ballot, and then the citizens of this town or this city would have to vote that through. So it'd be another election, but you gotta wait 6 months for that to happen. Yes, ma'am.
So like I have called and talked to Kathy,
I'm sorry?
I have called and talked to Kathy, she's sending me my application,
Uh-huh.
and I told her for a restaurant, off premises and a restaurant. So she gonna go ahead and send me my permit for the private club.
I have no idea what she's gonna say. I would hope that Kathy knows it's Columbia County and that there's not liquor by the drink. Kathy Gibson is one of our document examiners that covers this county. We only have 2 document examiners that cover the whole state, and they divide it alphabetically, the state or the counties, and Columbia County is hers. So you told her you are a restaurant, and you wanted a permit to sell beer
At the
Or-
tables,
at the table, okay,
or draft,
okay.
and sell off premises. Because part of it's restaurant, part of it's convenience.
Okay. There's,
I'm looking at 2, to my understanding.
you are a restaurant and a convenience store under the same roof. And you are wanting to sell beer to go or to be consumed at the table, or both,
One at the table,
at the table.
and to retail.
Okay. That particular situation is one of these weird situations. And it's an old grandfathered policy. If you plan to have on-premise and off-premise, and you have a convenience store and a restaurant in the same roof, your seating area, just the seating area, not the kitchen, not anywhere else, the seating area has to be 50.1% of the square footage to be able to qualify for that. If you are not, the seating area is not 50.1, basically over half, the square footage, then you can't do both. So has to be there. And then that's when Agent Powell's gonna come out there and measure and break out the abacus and try to figure out exactly what the square footage of just the seating area is.
Now, when I talked to Kathy, she told me that included the kitchen area.
It does not. It does not. It is just the seating area. And the reason I know it so well, because I just did one last week. And it was for a former city council member of Springdale who knows everything. And so I had to do a lot of measuring.
But you could still eliminate the restaurant and do on-premises.
Yeah, you could do, with that particular, if you don't have 50%, then you have to get two different businesses, two different licenses, two different entities.
That's what I told her.
Okay, so you got two separate businesses.
That way I've got it covered.
Sure. But if you're wanting to do it under one permit, one person, one company, one corporation, then that's where that 50.1% comes into play.
Here's another question. Does it have to be a wall to separate?
No. But there has to be some definition, something that defines what it is. Sure.
She had mentioned another door to the restaurant. Do not.
Now, if you're doing two separate ones, absolutely. They do have to be completely separate entrances. You can't walk from one permitted establishment into another permitted establishment without some non-permitted area between them. So if you're doing two separate ones, then yes, you have to have a separate door, and there has to be a wall segregating them both. Okay?
Sir, listen up here. Want to add, in applying for your application for any license, is there any fees you have to pay?
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't dove into the liquor stuff yet. But for beer and wine, you're paying the price of the permit when you apply. So retail beer, I believe, is $350. So you'll send $350 to apply for that permit. And then once it's granted, that money already goes towards that permit fee.
What
That's-
about if you want a private club?
Okay, private clubs. Let me address private clubs. And man, I can't see anything. I'm blinded. Private clubs. How that works. It's not just anybody can get a private club. A private club permit is different than a private club charter. You got to have the charter before you can get the permit. And a private club charter has to be a nonprofit organization. Has to have at least 100 members in this membership. It has to be registered through the Secretary of State's office as a nonprofit private club charter. And that thing has to be in existence for at least 1 year before you can even apply for a private club license. So that's where you got to get at least 100 members in there, and you have to, and I believe you have to send in a record of the minutes and the meetings, and so, and also that it is registered through the Secretary of State's office. And once that has been established, and once it has been in existence for a year, then you can apply for a private club license.
Does it have to be listed as a nonprofit with the IRS?
You got me. I don't have that answer. I know it has to be a nonprofit through the Secretary of State's office.
Secretary, do you have a website where you can get a lot of information?
You can go to the ABC website. If you'll just Google Alcoholic Beverage Control Arkansas, and click on that very first one, it'll take you right to our website. Our rules and regulations is there in print on our website. It's very difficult to understand. I ain't gonna lie to you. Read it. When I started with the ABC, I read it cover to cover. IQ went down 20 points. I didn't understand it. And over time, I've learned and deciphered it and understand it. Most of it. Not all of it. I don't know everything. I promise you I don't. But that information is there.
So if a restaurant is applying for an application to sell beer and wine,
Mm-hmm.
they have to have two different applications?
No.
One for the beer and one for
No.
the wine?
If it's under one business,
Right.
you're wanting to sell beer and wine. It can be two separate permits, or we have a beer-wine combination permit. We have that retail beer, small farm wine. I think retail beer is $3.50. Small farm wine is, or restaurant wine is, I want to say it's $300. I could be wrong. I can't remember. Or the combo permit, I believe, is $350. So it just makes sense to get the combination restaurant beer and wine permit.
And you send the money in with the
Mhm.
application to apply?
Mhm. And when you ask for an application, they're gonna send you, it's gonna come in a big manila envelope, and it's gonna have all the instructions in there, what you need to do. I promise you, it'll have that stuff in there.
What's the cost of the combination permit?
Beer wine combo,
She's asking.
I wanna say it's like $350 or $300. It's actually cheaper to get that than to get them separate.
But that's just for restaurants. It wouldn't apply for a hotel that does not have a restaurant in it.
Correct, because it's a restaurant permit, beer wine combination restaurant permit.
What about if you want to apply for a liquor store license?
Hold on, brother, we'll get there. I didn't want it, because I know that's gonna open a whole can of worms, and I'm kinda like saving that one. We'll get to the liquor stores. I wanna address all this stuff first, that I can. And then we'll dive into the liquor, because I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of questions on liquor stores. Or just in my experience. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of time frame are we looking at from the time y'all receive our application?
Well, it just depends on when we get it and when you post it. Because like I said, that thing has to be posted for 30 solid days. And once it's been posted for 30 days, then it will be slated to go to the next board hearing. The ABC board meets the third Wednesday of every month. So it could be 31 days or 60 days, depending on when it was posted.
So y'all already had your board meeting for this
Mm-hmm.
month, so we got one more for December.
But we've already passed it. We're within 30 days,
So everyone's gonna be after.
except for one.
Except for one.
One person has made it in time. And that person will be heard in December. But everyone else will have to wait if they turn their stuff in now or in the next couple of days, will be heard in January.
The 30 days that it has to be posted.
Mm-hmm.
Can you run the ad in the newspaper while that's posted?
Absolutely, that's when you do it. When you get that posting to put up, you have to sign it and date it when you put it up in the window. We know when we send it to you, so we know when people try to forge and backdate stuff. We know. So put the date that you posted it, and that's when the fingerprint cards and all that stuff come in there, and then the posting, and then if you're a restaurant, health department approval, we gotta get that too. All that stuff, and it's all in that packet telling you what you need to do and how you need to do it. Sir.
While you're right here doing beer and wine, would you clarify or kill the myth of what beer and wine stores, beer and wine restaurants, how close they can or cannot be to schools, can or cannot be to?
Sure. The only distance requirement we have for any type of permit is a liquor store. That is it. Everything else, a church can apply for a beer and wine permit if they want to. And we have several churches that get temporary permits every year. They do a festival, a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner, things like that. They have beer and wine on the ground.
Those are whiskey failures.
Those are Catholic churches. But it does happen. But yeah, that is the rumor. I know the ads that they were running in the paper say they're going to build a liquor store across from a school. Not going to happen. But if a nightclub, private club wants to go next to a school, we can't stop them. There's no regulations against it. And that's the way it has been all along. But I don't know of any private clubs next to a school. I don't think anybody wants to do that. That's career suicide, I think. But right now, that's the way it's been. That's the way it's always been. Sir.
In the package, they're gonna send us for like a convenience store too, the beer and small farm wine
Sure.
or whatever. Are all the rules and regulations for convenience stores gonna be in that, like,
Nope.
Find out. I mean, I wanna know about private clubs.
Sure. And that's why I'm here.
Employees, does an employee have to be 21 to sell beer?
Great. That leads me into the next thing here. That great segue. Awesome.
Like that, I have no clue.
Yeah, sure. And that's the whole point of this. That's what I want to hear. That's the questions I want to get so I can answer those. So you know exactly what you can do and what you can't do. All right. When it comes to who can sell, who can't sell, in this state, you must be 21 to bartend, period, no ifs, ands, or buts. Gotta be 21 to work in a liquor store, no ifs, ands, or buts. All right, restaurants and private clubs are different. Still have to be 21 to bartend, regardless. But if you are a private club or a restaurant, you can allow a 19-year-old to serve the alcohol. Serve it. No time are they behind the bar mixing, pouring, anything. They pick it up from point A, they drop it off at point B. A 19-year-old could do that. And it used to be they had to get a permission slip signed. Don't have to do that anymore for restaurants and private clubs. Convenience stores. Anyone selling alcohol in a convenience store, unless you're come and go, and I'll explain that here in a minute, you must be 21 to sell. Grocery stores are different. And it's not your definition of a grocery store, it's our definition of a grocery store. And our definition of a grocery store is a business that has at least $50,000 of consumable products on the premises, excluding alcohol. Walmart, Supercenter. You guys have one?
Yeah.
Okay. They are clearly, they have $50,000 consumable. They got 50,000 on one aisle. They are clearly a grocery store by our definition. So they could allow an 18-year-old to sell beer and wine out of their store. Walmart does not. They choose not to. They have their own policies that say they will not do that. And they don't. But they could. And then they would have to get a permission slip signed. Even though they're 18 and they may be married and have a couple of kids, who knows, doesn't matter. They still got to get a permission slip signed by their parent. That's just the way it is. And the reason I singled out Come and Go is Come and Go is a convenience store chain, and they have proven to us that their smallest store in this state has $50,000 of consumable products. So they, therefore, are a grocery store to us that just happen to sell gas. So they can allow an 18-year-old to sell. But if you let an 18-year-old sell, somebody in the building working there has to be 21. We need somebody responsible. That answer that?
Yeah, it's not the answer I wanted to hear.
Sorry about that. I can't do that.
What about Sunday sales?
Sunday sales. All right.
We're open 24/7, so.
Sure. Right now, there is a state law that says you can't have Sunday sales to go. Liquor stores, convenience stores, grocery stores, you cannot sell packaged alcohol to go unless there's a vote. Again, you got to get a petition started, and this is the only way you can do it. In the town that you're in, you can get a petition started, and I'm sorry, the numbers are all messed up in my head. It's either 15 or 38%, I don't know which. You have to get that many people to sign it, 38% of the registered voters that voted in this last governor election from your town, 38%. To sign this petition, then it gets put on a ballot, and then the citizens of that city have to vote Sunday sales, yes or no.
So it's only midnight to midnight on Sunday.
If you have Sunday sales.
I'm saying if any other time during the week, wide open.
No, gosh, no. Sunday sales, okay, for Sunday sales, if you got it, it would be midnight. You're done. Now, with the retail beer permits, for convenience stores, grocery stores, things like that, our permit allows you to sell till 1 a.m., Monday through Friday, and midnight on Saturday. That is it. And then you can open up at 7 a.m. But you got to have some downtime there. And that's the way it is. That's the way the law is written. That's it. I know that's not the answer you wanted. But
24 hours, you gotta get some kind of something in play there,
Sure.
You know these rules.
And unfortunately, everywhere else in the state complies with that law. Several convenience stores have put locks on their cooler doors. They know to lock them. They program their POS systems to make sure that no alcohol is sold past a certain time, to prevent that from happening. But unfortunately,
Get a copy of these rules for convenience stores.
again, go to our website.
I've been to your website, it's very confusing.
I know, but it's not the website that's confusing, it's our ABC rules and regulations. And that's why I'm trying to just at least explain this to you guys, the best that I can.
Retail beer and wine, the off-premise sales,
Is there, like, when you're saying, is there any requirements of the building? What do you,
is there like a minimum size, does it have to have bathrooms, does it have to have anything?
for retail beer, don't even have to have a bathroom. Off premise,
Right, off-premise.
yes. Yeah, you don't even have to have a bathroom. You do, yes, thank you. Every permitted establishment has to have a phone, telephone, a landline hooked up to their business. Not a cell phone, has to be a phone to that business. And any permittee, and I may have already covered that, I don't know. Every permittee has to live within 35 miles of that business. And that's a straight line. That's not the road. That's how the crow flies. And I'll tell you right now, we use Google Earth, and we measure it that way. We'll measure it from your home address, corner of that building, to the corner of the building that you have your permit at. You gotta live within 35 miles, and you have to be a resident of this state.
And what if you want it to be a drive-through?
Convenience stores,
No, it's like a, yeah, or a,
nobody can have a drive-through other than liquor stores.
okay, so,
So convenience stores that do have drive-through, that sell tater logs and whatever else, hot wings and all that good stuff out the window, you cannot sell beer out the window.
okay.
Now, I say that, and some of you guys will be like, well, wait a minute. I went to a place in Fort Smith that does that. Unfortunately, there's like 4 that are allowed to do that because they were grandfathered in. They were able to do it years ago, and they've kept that permit alive that many years.
What if someone wanted to have, just sell beer and wine, but they wanted them to walk up to a window and not allow them in the store? Can they do that?
A walk-up window?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, but not a drive.
Well,
So it could be a snow cone?
well, we have, you laugh. Y'all laugh, but there are adult snow cones. A convenience store, no. Nobody can have a walk-up window. You cannot sell anything out of a window. They have to come in and purchase it. Liquor stores are the only thing that can have a walk-up window or a drive-through window. Everything else has to come in and get it.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is a client I've got. If he wants to have a building that's only got beer and wine in it, would that be considered a liquor store?
No,
Or, okay,
it's a beer and wine store.
it's a beer and wine store, but he still cannot have a drive-through.
Correct.
Okay.
And you still have to
And
have
no
a
walk-up
convenience
window.
store. You have to have a certain amount of merchandise.
Right. If you're going to sell wine, you got to have a certain amount of consumable products.
Wine, only? but
Only
no-
wine.
Okay,
Beer doesn't matter.
but no walk-up window and no drive-through.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Rick, I
Oh.
want to clarify, I heard a comment about, does it have to have a bathroom? ABC may not say it has to have a bathroom.
Right.
But Arkansas, plumbing code says that any commercial business must have a bathroom.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll do that.
There you go. I mean, I can only comment on, like, if anybody's here wanting to know about taxes, you're in the wrong place. Because I just know to tell you to pay them. That's about it. So thank you for clarifying that, because that's another one of those issues that we don't get involved in. Yes, sir.
You have to live within 35 miles to apply.
Yeah, because if you're not living within 35 miles, then you're not going to get that permit.
So you have to be within 35 miles before you apply. You can't move after your state.
Correct. When you turn that application in, that's what we're going by. And you have to live in this state, and I understand, and I know we deal with this in Northwest Arkansas. I live 15 minutes from Oklahoma and 25 minutes from Missouri. So we have people that live right across the border. You have to be a resident of this state.
You have to reside in that
Sure.
location. You can't just buy property and say that's your residential address.
You better live here,
You have to live there.
because she's gonna go by there to make sure you're living here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, clarify that. I'm asking some questions for some out-of-state investors.
Mhm.
If they're opening up not a liquor store, but like a sports bar,
Mhm.
do they still have to live in the state?
Only the permittee has to live in the state.
Okay.
Owners don't have to live here.
Like a chain, an Applebee's or
Sure,
whatever?
they have, the local manager is usually the permit holder.
Okay, if they already have licenses in another state, do they have a dual license in Arkansas? I'm assuming Applebee's does.
Well, if they've got a permit in another state, I don't know other states' rules about whether or not they have to reside in that state. They just have to live here. Now, if Louisiana says that they can have a permit in Louisiana and live here, that has nothing to do with
Okay,
us.
okay, so as long as they have a manager, somebody here.
Sure, and that's what chain businesses do, is when Walmart is notorious, it's horrible, the amount of change of managers we get on them, because their local manager is the permittee. They rotate those folks out like every 30 days. So they have to turn around and do a change of manager every time they put somebody new in there. That's gonna be the permit holder. And if you do have a business and you fire your permittee, you fire them, or whatever, they quit, they move, whatever. And you have 30 days to do a change of manager request and get a new person taking over the ship. But yeah, for owners in other states, that's normal. You just,
And that person's age must be what, 21?
oh yeah, you gotta be 21 to hold a permit in this state.
What classes are required for serving, like the C-store?
Mm-hmm.
Would we have to go to a class?
Great question. Great question. I appreciate that one. Not that I didn't appreciate anybody else's. But in this state, whoever's going to be the permit holder is required to go to Little Rock and attend an education seminar put on by yours truly. You get to drive to Little Rock once a month and teach an education seminar. We do it once a month. We do it at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on the same day. Make one or the other. They have to attend this class. It's basically nuts and bolts, sort of what I'm doing here today. And it's about 2.5 hours long. In this state, that's the only person that's required to have any training whatsoever. So your servers, your bartenders, do they need to be certified to be able to work in your establishment? Not yet. However, to let you guys know, I also teach server training classes through the ABC, because our goal is to someday make this mandatory, like every state around us does. Like in Texas, for instance, every bartender, every server better have a TABC card in their pocket. Otherwise, they're going to get fined. We call those mandatory states. We are not one of them, but we're wanting to go that direction. Again, when, I don't know. I've been teaching that class for over 3 years, and I've been telling people someday. I don't know when someday is. But I still teach those classes. And I've spoken with David about this, and once we get a handle on this down here and all these permits are coming out and it's finally died down a little bit and everybody's set, I'm going to come back and I'm going to offer a server training class to your employees to let them know what they can and cannot do. Because you're going to tell them, and then I'm going to tell them. And maybe it'll sink in at that point. That it's not just their boss making stuff up. That it's actually true. This is what can happen. And I do that class. I teach that class all over the state. That's where I was in McGee, Arkansas yesterday teaching that class. And it's about 3.5, 4 hours long. And I give them the ins and outs and the who's and what's and what they can and cannot do. And then give them some fake ID training on top of it. I love fake IDs. Love them. I tear them up. So they get a lot, I think they get a lot of benefit from it. I've been to El Dorado a while back and did several classes over there. You know, and once, like I said, once this settles down, I'm gonna get with David, I'm gonna get with Agent, Powell over here, and we're gonna try to do a class. Hopefully, it'd be great to do it in this building, and get as many employees as we can. And I can do it a couple of times. I can do it once in the morning, once in the afternoon. If I gotta stay the night, I'll stay the night and do another one the next day. To try to get and accommodate as many people as I can to train your folks. Absolutely want that. Training's the key to me. I firmly believe that.
Now, you said the permit holder had to attend the class.
Yes.
Is it just a one-time deal?
It's a one-time in a lifetime.
Is that the one that sells at San Miguel,
Sure.
Is that the one that y'all?
I'd have to look on my calendar, but yeah, I think,
That's the one y'all supposed to online.
yes, yes.
So anyone who wants to get the January time has to pretty much go there.
Yeah, they better be there in December. I hope to see most of y'all there in December. Yeah, you need to attend that if you want to get that permit, because they're not gonna give you that permit until you've attended that seminar.
What about the forms that have to be signed for everybody, your employees? What's the requirement?
The
for
server
that?
awareness forms.
Yes.
Okay. Any place that sells alcohol, and you have employees that sell it, whether it's on-premise, off-premise, doesn't matter. Anyone that's engaged in the sale of alcohol has to sign a server awareness form. We have copies of that form on our website, and it'll come in the packet as well. And I call it our Bill of Rights. It basically says, I will not sell to a minor. I will not sell to an intoxicated person. I will not do this, that. And they have to read it, and every one of your employees has to sign their own individual sheet. And the permittee has to sign every single one of them.
What about if they're like just in a restaurant, if they're delivering drinks? Do they
They're
have to
serving
sign-
it or selling it. If they're
Serving it?
handling alcohol, they gotta sign that server awareness form.
Okay, serving and serving.
And you have to maintain it at the business, because when Agent Smith comes to do an in-depth inspection, which she will, she has to, she'll be at your store for sure to do an in-depth inspection once a year. And she's gonna look for that. She's gonna say, I need to see your server awareness forms. And that's a requirement, that they have to read that and sign it.